Hey everybody, welcome back to the channels. We are still playing Four Rows of Saints. And we're like beyond three sheets to the wind.
That was not nearly as funny as it actually was, but it was anyway.
I think we're the whole mattress to the wind now.
So speaking of guacamole, I was about to tell Sloan the story of there was some sort of people. I don't remember what school it was, but it was a university or college in the States, which is full of this kind of bullshit story these days.
Yeah.
So many of these places are going so social justice warrior ridiculousness, but there was some school in the States where I forget what the event was, but there was some sort of, I think it was some sort of Halloween event
Okay.
where
This is not going to
one of the students and his friends, who by the way happened to be from I think it was either Spain or another country where they speak Spanish and have mariachi bands.
Mexico.
They wanted to, like 4 or 5 of these friends wanted to dress up for Halloween on campus as a mariachi band.
That makes sense, yeah.
Now they weren't allowed to because they were told by the campus authorities that this might offend people because of cultural appropriation. Now, these students all came from a culture that have mariachi bands as part of their culture. So it was their own culture that they were accused of being appropriating.
Oh my god.
God damn, political correctness has gone overboard.
Yeah, well, it's the internet.
Okay, look, 420 blazing. 420 blaze it. Go.
Okay. Oh my god. No, I was telling Krendar here that if I play the guacamole, I'm gonna have to get a stupid luchador mask.
Do it. I recorded mine up without a webcam because I didn't have mine at the time.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I told you, but when I first bought my webcam, like I did a lot of series before I even had a webcam, just using fraps.
Yeah.
So therefore no face cam.
Yeah.
I first got my webcam when I was originally invited for the very first time to be a guest on the Gaming Vortex podcast when I first met those guys. And so I had to buy a webcam to be on them, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was your question?
You met them pretty much the same way I did then, huh? Through the podcast?
Oh shit, where the fuck am I? Anyways, I got on the podcast not through like a forum ad or anything, just through like a mutual friend.
Ah, okay.
Do you know Iconic the Jam?
No.
He's another YouTuber who happens to be from Ottawa, like me.
Okay.
Anyways, I met him, and then he was a friend of Numbskull and Frexy already.
Cool.
So he invited me to be a guest on the show, basically. Or I should say, he talked to them and got me invited.
Neat.
Because last year, I was going to a local college for culinary school. And then towards the end of that program, I decided there was a way you could talk to the whoever's in charge of that sort of thing on campus to put up posters if you wanted to advertise something.
Were you
on
advertising
campus.
your channel?
So I decided to advertise my channel on campus. And he saw the ads and contacted me and was like, hey, I'm from Ottawa and I've got a YouTube channel. Do you want to do a collab? And I was like, cool, let's do it. So that's how I met Iconic the Jam. And then he introduced me to Frexy and Numbskull, and I did a guest spot on the Gaming Vortex podcast, and then that's how I met Unlucky Desperado here.
Hey.
And this is why they call it the World Wide Web.
Yeah, for people who never saw that, who just know me through this, or know Krendar through this, yeah, we're both part of Makers Gen, and
Yeah.
they put a forum post like, oh, who wants to be on? I'm like, you know what? I need to get my name out there. Why the hell not? So I decided to, I was going to go there. End up being there because, meeting Krendar because Vipsy, who was supposed to be the regular, she was having computer problems.
That's actually a very ironic story, because she was like, I can't be on the show anymore, so Frexy and Numbskull are like, okay, we need a replacement for Vipsy. We need like a semi-regular backup character. And I was like, I can do that. I'm available all the time because I'm unemployed. And then the next week I got a job and I wasn't available on the day that they were doing the podcast anymore. So I went from regular backup guy to not available ever guy in a week.
Guess who
kind of
became the
ironic.
regular backup guy now?
And now I'm the regular backup guy again because I got laid off.
Which still sucks, man.
But I've decided to take like the next month off because it's like, if I'm going to be job hunting, I'm at least going to wait till fucking winter is over. Because we're only a month away. So it's like, I might as well wait till winter's over so I don't have to go to job interviews wearing fancy but not practical clothing during the fucking February. Oh shit.
That is still dealing with, like, people that, people that are all like, oh, I'm just starting school back up, so I'm gonna try and do this. Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah. Actually, it was May last year that I started my my culinary school because I was not starting at the standard beginning of a normal semester time. It was I started the whole program in the summer semester because that happened to be the time that I finished the paperwork and was able to get the funding and able to start doing it. I was in a position where I couldn't wait 5 more months to wait for the fall semester because I didn't have enough money to survive that long.
Yeah.
But I got government funding to do it, so they helped pay my rent and feed me while I was going to and pay my tuition while I was going to school to train for train for a new thing because hooray for Canada and our socialism basically.
Yeah.
We have a government program called Second Career.
Yeah.
Where basically if you have some reason why you legitimately cannot pursue the same sort of jobs you've been doing already and have to get retraining in a new career path for some reason, you can get government funding to go back to school and do that as an adult.
That was superbly done.
Nice.
And I have spent 13 years working in call centers to the point where I've actually developed a throat problem. Where if I'm talking for longer than 5 hours straight, my throat is in pain and I can't do it anymore.
Which is why you'll never see him do a 24-hour live stream.
Yeah.
But he will
So-
get star in them.
I'll guest star in them for like 2 or 3 hours. But I can't do like a whole 24-hour live stream by myself. Because it'll be too painful. But I can do
It's also insane.
I can do 2 or 3 hours of recordings or live streams and be okay. But that's why I couldn't work at call centers anymore because of that. Because I couldn't do an 8-hour shift anymore. After like 4 or 5 hours, I had to go home because I was in so much pain that I was afraid that I was going to do permanent throat damage. So because of that, I was able to get a doctor to examine my throat and give me a
With your
doctor's
socialized
note.
Medicare. And...
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have to pay. It didn't cost me anything to do this, but I had to go to a throat specialist to get documented proof that my throat was fucked up, which allowed me to get government funding to retrain because I couldn't follow the career path. I couldn't do call centers anymore. I was medically unable to do it, which helped me meet the legal requirements to get funding for a new career path. So I went to culinary school. So I was able to get that paid for last year, and that was
Cool.
pretty cool.
So if I come to visit, you're gonna make food, right?
Yeah, man. I will
So you
I will chef it the fuck up.
So are you still in culinary school?
No, I finished.
Oh,
there's
cool.
there's 2 versions of it actually. There's the 1-year program which gives you your cook certificate, which is what I did. Which
Okay.
means that I can cook at a restaurant. Like I'm qualified to cook at a restaurant, basically.
You need a certificate for that shit up in Canada?
Well, if you want them to actually hire you, yes.
Oh,
You want to prove that you've been trained to that degree at least.
I guess this is
I'm
like
talking about
legit
a restaurant,
not fast food.
not fucking McDonald's, okay? I'm talking about like an actual sit down with waiters restaurant.
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
Then the college also offers a 2-year program for restaurant management where they teach you how to be the head chef and how to manage the restaurant as like the paperwork and being the manager and not just the guy who cooks the food.
Yeah.
And I chose not to do that because I didn't want to do that. It looks like a giant. We learned a little bit about how to do that, and I learned enough to realize that that looks like a gigantic pain in the ass that I don't want to be involved in.
That makes sense, yeah.
It's more paperwork than anything else. It's practically accounting. I didn't want to do it. Not that there's anything against accounting, it's just not what I personally want to do.
Oh no, that makes perfect sense to me. You know, if you don't want to do something, then don't fucking
There's
do it.
It's a lot of stress and a lot of responsibility, and I didn't want, and a lot of paperwork and math, and I'm good at math, but I don't want math to be my whole job.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the idea of having a hands-on job where I actually produce something of immediate value to people, i.e., delicious meals.
Cool.
So that was cool. Anyways, so that's because of doing all of that. That's how I ended up meeting Iconic the Jam. And I forgot to do the timer for this episode.
We're 11 minutes in.
I've been doing that a lot today. I don't know why. No, wait a
Gee,
second. I take that back. I do know why I keep forgetting to do that.
I was gonna say, I wonder what could be, impairing you.
Yes, exactly. I'm usually pretty good about it when I'm sober, but I am far from sober right now. In fact, I have a feeling that when I record Fridays, I'm still not going to be sober yet. So that should be interesting.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, that was pretty fun though, and most of the people teaching the classes at the college were actually highly experienced and successful chefs in the industry themselves.
Cool.
So that was nice.
Oh, dude, we could buy night light outfits.
Yeah. One of the chefs in my second semester was actually an incredibly sarcastic asshole, and he was awesome. Like, he was like a comedy asshole and not just like a...
Not just a
like,
dick.
not an actual asshole, just a extremely snarky sense of humor type of guy. Who would make fun of his students if they did some shit that deserved to be made fun of. He was cool. And he was the guy who taught our practical class, which is the actual... Okay, in our second semester we had a class called Food Practical where there was an actual upscale restaurant on campus. I'm not talking about the cafeteria, I'm talking about an actual upscale restaurant where you pay like 20 or 30 bucks for a meal.
Yeah.
The sort of place where you might order your whole, like... You know how some places will have, like, here's your meal. You choose one of these appetizers, one of these mains, then one of these desserts, and here's your bulk price.
Yeah.
There's one of those places.
Nice.
And what happened was both the wait staff and the cooking staff were all students of the of the college.
Okay, not bad. Did
So
you just summon a demon?
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe.
Our
second semester class called Food Practical was basically every Wednesday. Our class was the cooks that cooked the meals for the lunch shift at that restaurant.
Nice. Sounds like a decent setup.
And that was our chef for that class. He was our teacher for that class, and the head chef for the restaurant. The only people that worked at that restaurant that were not students were the managers.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. So that guy was cool. Chef Edwards, he's awesome. It's called Algonquin College. If anybody watching this is from Ottawa.
See, I thought about going to, like, I originally went into engineering in college. And I ended up with a political science degree, so figure that shit out.
Yeah, seriously.
It was going through and it was like, I can do the work, I just can't do the test and remembering the equations off the top of my head.
Yeah, like I'm starting to forget some of the conversions already. Like one of the things the whole program was a 50-50 mix between practical and theoretical, which means we had 3 classes a semester that were in the kitchen cooking, and 3 classes a semester that were in a classroom with textbooks.
Okay.
Here, go ahead and do the hack.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So we had Food Theory 1 and Food Theory 2, which was the book learning stuff behind the cooking. Like learning why certain things happen when you cook, right?
Yeah.
And in Food Theory 1, we had 1/3 of the class was actually no, for both of the classes, food theory true as well. A third of the class was learning Microsoft Office products and how to use them properly.
Yeah,
as well as the mathematics behind them, like how to convert recipes between like American and Canadian, like metric and imperial, and how to I forget what the proper term for it was, but it's like, imagine you have a recipe that says this recipe feeds 10 people, but you have to feed 20 people or 30 people or 50 people or 3 people, right?
Yeah, how do you
so how do you go through and convert that? Which I know it sounds blindingly obvious, but it was part of the class.
It's not actually. As
well, it
someone
actually
who worked in a place where I had a cheap ass boss who forced me to learn this on the spot.
It is in a way, because it's like, if you've got a recipe that feeds 10 people and you have to feed 20 people, then you just take all the ingredients and multiply them by 2.
Yeah.
You just do double the recipe. It should be blindingly obvious, but for some people it's not. People who are bad at math need like, this course.
I wasn't bad at math.
And that's why it exists.
Exists?
Well, hold on. Yeah, I'm talking good because I'm drunk.
But no, it's like,
Here,
yeah, no. I would
come over here. I have a virus injection to do.
It froze. What?
Wait, where's my? Abduction gun. Let's do. Wait.
No, my game's not responding.
Oh,
no.
Shit. Oh, there's the crash. Okay. How are we doing for timer?
16 minutes.
Okay, we're halfway.
Yeah. No. As we try and Did your game completely crash?
Yeah, I'm saving my game now. Although part of the thing that went with the recipe conversion was food costing.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting thing you learn, because you might go to a restaurant and think, wow, these prices are kind of high sometimes. But the thing you have to remember is your dinner that you're buying has to pay for not just the cost of the ingredients, but also the wages
person
of
preparing it, the person
the wages of every single employee in that building, as well as like not just the person who's cooking it, but the waiters, and the dishwashers, and the managers,
and the electricity, and the
electricity, and the butter, and the vegetable oil, and the soap that the detergent that the dishwasher uses. Everything.
Stupid little thing, yeah.
Hold on, I pushed the wrong button. I'll accept your invite in a second.
Okay, but no,
so the way it breaks down typically.
Yeah.
And this changes. Wait, what? Okay, this changes with super high end restaurants. Like I'm talking the kind of place where you pay $30 for a steak or $50 for a steak. This does not apply to those restaurants, but for 90% of the other restaurants. The way it typically breaks down is 30% of what you are paying for your meal covers the food cost of that meal. 30% of it covers the wages of the employees, and the other 30% of it covers things like water costs and electricity costs and soap costs, like miscellaneous.
Because it's
and then
trying to explain to people like that, that free bread you get and the free water, they got to pay for it somehow.
Yeah, which means for 95% of restaurants in existence, 90% of the money you're paying for your meal is expenses for the restaurant. They're only making 10% profit.
Yep.
For like family restaurants, 10% profit, 90% covering their own asses.
Which is, as you become an adult and everything, and actually not an asshole, you sit there and realize, yeah, that makes sense, and
now exactly. Now for high-end restaurants, that changes a bit because they charge more money because they have people with higher levels of skills and stuff.
Yeah,
but they're making a higher profit margin overall anyway. But that's because they do such a high-quality product. There's a thing called food cost percentage.
Yeah,
I think that's what they call it. Something along those lines. It's usually 30 or 40%, which means what you pay for your meal, buying the ingredients was 30 or 40% of what it cost them what they're charging you. So if you're buying a meal that costs you $10, then the raw ingredients probably cost the restaurant $3 or $4. But that's because they have all those other expenses to pay, right?
Yeah.
But that's the guideline that most family restaurants or a place like Casey's or Kelsey's or Jack Astor's or Denny's.
Okay, there's the name that I know.
Those places they're deciding what to charge you for their meal by taking the cost of the ingredients and multiplying it by 3 or 4.
Yeah. Which, I don't know, as I become more and more adult, I don't care as long as it's not, oh look, your stack of pancakes is going to be $30-$40.
Yeah. The point being, the only restaurants that are really charging you extra are the super high-end ones that have really, really, really skilled cooks. Yeah. And they deserve the extra money.
But it's like, yeah, I was actually tempted right as I got out of engineering school. I was still in college. I stayed in college because I was like, I had a couple of minor or general education courses to take.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I was trying to figure out what to do. So it was like, culinary school, I like to cook. I'm a fat guy. I like making food.
Exactly. See? Look at this guy. Does this guy look slim to you? Okay.
That was my whole thought process. Like,
I don't know.
I would love to bake better cakes.
Have you ever heard the phrase, never trust a thin chef?
Yes, I have. But then I've also met some thin chefs who are like, you make awesome food, and you love food, but you're an asshole who doesn't gain weight.
The only time you can trust a thin chef is a chef who has a hyperactive metabolism. But you can trust a fat chef because you know that fat chef loves food.
Yep.
You can tell by looking at him because he's fat.
Yeah. At one point I was actually debating being an English major, or so I could take creative writing and shit like that.
I am really fucking bad at that shit. I am not a terribly creative person.
I am not too bad. Like, I'm kind of... You're not seeing it fully on the D&D game because I'm kind of getting pigeonholed at times. Like, I gotta make this a little bit easier for some people.
Yeah. I'm generally not even as good at GM as you are. Actually, you know what drives me nuts about that?
What?
Have you ever heard of a tabletop RPG called Earth Dawn? Actually, I know you have because I've told you about it. Never mind. I remembered that fact in the middle of my question. Anyways, for the viewers at home, there's a tabletop RPG called Earth Dawn that is awesome. But the problem I have is that it is not very well known. So, I can never find a GM who's heard of it.
Or who's willing to play it.
Like, yeah, I can't find people who are willing to run it because they don't know it. And I can understand why a GM would not want to run a system they've never known before.
I'm always on when it counts.
But that means that the only time I ever get to play Earth Dawn is when I'm the one running it, and I don't like running games. I'm not good at it. I am not a GM type.
See, it's one of those things, like, I like writing stories. I did really well in my creative writing class I took. And it's like, I even made a story where the main character did not talk at all.
That's
it's
cool.
Just,
I did that. I did that once when I was GMing a game, and I was GMing a game very briefly for one person because I was trying to teach them D&D.
Yeah.
So it was basically, they were the only player character, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'll have a PC of my own to go with you as the GM, but I will make them a mute so that you still have to make the decisions for the party because the other guy can't talk. Sorry, I'm just putting myself in orbit accidentally. Don't mind me. I'm using the abduction gun.
I noticed that. I was using the dubstep gun for the first time in a while.
I need to go to a store to get that. Oh shit, I need a revival over here.
Oh, good thing is we completed the mission, so...
Yeah. Anyway, Earth Dawn is probably my favorite RPGs ever.
I need to actually look up some of the stuff, see if I can get... Stop lifting me up.
Sorry. I'm trying to do my challenge for the abduction gun. Anyway, for anybody who's not familiar with Earth Dawn, you've probably heard of Shadowrun. Because that's a well-known RPG.
If you've heard of RPG
if you RPG ever at all, that is, yeah. Now, do you know about Shadowrun, Desperado?
Yeah. It's one of the systems I'm trying to suggest to Numbskull if he ever runs his
Okay.
system.
No, I don't know if I've told you this, but I'm going to
It
tell you
takes
again
place in the
anyways
past.
because,
Yeah, you told
because
me
I'm telling
about
the
that.
audience, the people watching the video.
Yep.
Earthdawn and Shadowrun take place in the same universe, but Earthdawn takes place 6,000 years in the past. Now, you have this thing in Earthdawn where... Sorry, in Shadowrun, I should say, where... Are you doing the hacking already, by the way?
Yep.
Okay, you do that while I talk.
Life has been so crazy lately.
Anybody who's played Shadowrun knows about the whole fact that there's... In their story, the Earth has a fluctuating magic level that goes up and down over time. And it's shaped like a sine wave, right?
Yeah.
And Shadowrun takes place as, like, if you imagine the current world in the year 2000-ish as being the very bottom of the sine wave where there's no magic at all, and then Shadowrun, which is like 2050 something or other, takes place where the sine wave is starting to go back up a little bit, where to the point where magic has been noticeably returning to the world, but it's still kind of weak relatively, but it's there, it's undeniably there. Earthdawn's the opposite. Earthdawn is where you're at the top of a sine wave, and the magic level of the world is just starting to come down. So it's still like 90% of the maximum. It's actually... You know how... Desperado, you know how Shadowrun is usually referred to as the sixth world?
Yeah.
And current day, like you and me are in right now, is called the fifth world?
Yep.
Earthdawn is the fourth world. So it is literally the top of the sine wave that happens just before Shadowrun's bottom of the sine wave.
And for people who don't know what we're talking about, in Shadowrun, imagine a cyberpunk world with dragons and magic and trolls and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Imagine the world of Tolkien came to life in our, scientific future type thing.
Yeah,
Which it's an awesome setting. The gameplay is kind of annoying to figure out, but once you figure it out, it's really easy. And yeah.
So that's what I really like about Earthdawn. It's the same setting. In fact, there's at least 2 or 3 NPCs, like big famous NPCs, in Shadowrun that also were still alive back in Earthdawn 6,000 years ago. Actually, at least 4, I should say. Have you actually, Desperado? Have you ever
What
seen?
the hell are you wielding?
This is the rectifier. Let me show you. Let me show you. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Watch this. Watch this.
Okay. Dude, not cool.
Then I launched him.
Please tell me something does not go in him.
Oh, you saw that tongue. I'm sure you did.
Jesus.
Anyways, have you seen there's a book supplement for Shadowrun called Dunkelzahn's Will?
I have not actually seen that one.
Do you know who Dunkelzahn is?
No. Who is that?
I guess you don't know a lot about Shadowrun then.
I know a little bit, but most of the time
Okay.
I was trying to read it, I was trying to figure out the system so I could help the person running it.
Okay. You know how in the setting of Shadowrun, dragons are a thing?
Yeah. And they're usually CEOs.
Now, there's a point in the story where... Okay, America and Canada merged into a
Yeah,
new
we
country
annexed
called the
you
UCAS,
Yeah.
United Canadian American States.
Yeah.
And at one point, a great dragon gets elected as president of the UCAS. Did you
Okay.
hear about that?
I believe so.
Okay, that dragon's name is Dunkelzahn.
Okay.
Okay? He existed back in Earthdawn.
Nice.
Also, you know the German corporation Sader Krupp?
Kind of. It's been a while.
It's one of the most famous mega corporations in the game.
Okay.
It's called Sader Krupp. It's German based. That company is also run by another great dragon, who was also around back in Earthdawn times. And there's another famous NPC who's a physical adept elf called Harlequin. Have you heard of him?
Like I said, it's been a while, so I may have. I just don't remember right now.
Okay.
But
He
let's
was
go
also
for the.
he was also around back in Earthdawn times.
Cool.
But there's a book called Dunkelzahn's Will, which is what I was working towards here.
Okay.
Where during the story, after becoming president of the United Canadian American States, Dunkelzahn gets assassinated by some sort of weird black hole bomb thing. It's some sort of magitech bomb that makes like a black hole. And somebody set it off on his presidential limo and sucked him into a black hole. Now, personally, I believe that he's probably still alive somewhere.
Yeah.
But the general storyline is that he's supposed to be dead. So therefore, a supplemental book came out called Dunkelzahn's Will, which is exactly that. Imagine if like a document inside of the game world was a real document in the game, right?
Okay.
And you can read it. Now, there's at least one reference to Earth Dawn in that book, and also a fact that reveals that another NPC from the Earth Dawn universe survived into Shadowrun times, because did you do this tower thing?
Yeah.
Shit, you did that while I was talking, I guess. Anyway.
No, I did that ages ago.
Oh, okay.
That was the thing that led you to go talk to Keith again or something.
Oh, okay. There was there's a whole huge quest line going on in Earth Dawn called where there's a faction of elves that wants an artifact called the Ever-Living Flower.
Yeah.
For reasons that would be a whole new story of its own. But point being, that's an Earth Dawn thing. It's a big deal in Earth Dawn lore. It's almost like King Arthur and the quest for the Holy Grail level of big deal, right?
Okay.
Now, in Dunkelzahn's Will, there's a line that says, to Queen Elatia, I bequeath the ever-living flower. I will not be needing it anymore. And Queen Elatia is the one that wants the ever-living flower 6,000 years ago. And it turns out Dunkelzahn's had it the whole fucking time, apparently.
And he's just been kind of like, oh, I don't know where it is. I don't know where it is.
He's like,
Yes, I
hey,
do.
you could have it now that I'm dead. Now that you don't need it anymore.
I'm done with it.
It's funny. There's a whole subplot. Actually, I like it too because there's another subplot that's starting to show up in Shadowrun that is another Earth Dawn reference that sort of happening early in a way. Have you ever read any Shadowrun lore that refers to a group of otherworldly entities called the Enemy?
No.
So that's a whole nother story. How much time do we have left on this episode, by the way?
We are at 33 minutes, actually.
Oh, we should stop. I'll save that for next time. Remind me next time, and if you want me to tell me about that
Well,
shit.
I'm
Or to say, shut up, Krendar, you're drunk if you don't want to hear about it.
all right. Well, I'm finishing
let's-
up an area right now.
Let's
and,
finish this. Let's finish this activity, and then we can call it there.
Okay. But no, I was actually thinking about that since Earth Dawn is supposed to be a precursor. If I did
It
run
is,
that,
yeah.
I feel like
There's a
I'd
lot
have-
of linkages between them.
I'd have like a steady campaign of like, okay, here's a couple of basic, run-throughs of this. Then that's the end of Earth Dawn, and now
Oh.
you have to play the descendants of your characters.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Actually, have you ever heard of in Shadowrun? There's something called an Inve Spirits.
Yeah.
You heard of them?
Yeah,
Shit.
they sound familiar.
They're from Earth Dawn as well.
Because I think he was wanting to play a goddamn magic character. Oh. I apparently left the area.
I guess
you
you
go?
crashed. I guess you
Crashed?
crashed because I got disconnected from you.
I'm still playing.
Well, I got disconnected from you anyways.
Okay.
And
Well,
I guess we're done the episode anyway, so
Yep. Well,
we'll
thank you.
talk more about the Inve Spirits, and if anybody's watching this as a Shadowrun fan, all I've got to say is Dead Space and the Universal Brotherhood. I'll just leave that there, and you can decide. You can try to figure out what the fuck I'm talking about.
And to everyone watching, thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed. If you did, here's the usual spiel. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And tell us if you guys are liking this, because if you are, then we'll keep killing brain cells. If not, then
Yay!
we'll probably still be killing brain cells. This
Okay.
is kind of fun to do, so fuck it.
Now it's time for me to record another episode of Heroic Fridays when I'm not sober yet, so that'll be fun.
All right. Well, bye, everybody.
Bye.